Hi, welcome to my new YouTube channel called Consciousness TV. And in this channel I would like to bring you all sorts of information about consciousness, spirituality, paranormal, all sorts of things. Anything from lucid dreaming, past life regression, ghost hunting, shamanism, all sorts of things. But today I would like to try and teach you to see the auric field, and I will explain the 7 auric field layers. Now, some people call it the 7 auric bodies. I call it the 7 auric layers, but you must call it what you will. I'll go through the first 7 layers and then we'll go through the layers independently. So the first layer is called the etheric layer. The second is called the emotional layer. The third is called the mental layer. The fourth is called the astral layer. The fifth is called the X-ray template layer. The sixth is called the celestial layer, and the seventh is called the causal layer. But I'll go into those in more detail. Now, the auric field really is called the bioplasmic field. So everything about you, your soul, your mind, your body, sits within the auric field. All your information is held within the auric layers, and the aura is actually infinite. Now, as a human being, we struggle mentally to understand the concept of infinity. So I will try and keep this as basic as I can. And hopefully we'll have a bit of fun as well. I have locked the cats out, so you'll be happy to know there won't be any Bodhi interruption for the ones of you that watched the last one. So let's crack on with the etheric layer. So to see the aura, now I want you to notice I've used a very, very particular filter. That's why it's jumping in and out. So when you see that flashing on the screen, it's about movement, because I've used quite a dark, almost sepia layer, just so the camera can pick up the auric field. It's quite difficult to do this via video link like this, but when you're at home it'll be a lot easier. Now, when you're at home, I would very much suggest almost candlelight and a very light wall, just to start off to see the auric field. And the actual key to seeing the auric field is not to think about it. And there'll be all of you out there going, I need to think about it. Why can't I see it? A lot of people can't see it because they're tending to use the conceptualized point of the brain. And this is really about total relaxation. So just close your eyes and just take a deep breath. And just relax your eyes. Your eyes almost have to be slightly, can I say boss-eyed, or slightly out of focus. And just get your focus back and look right above the top of my head. So as you're looking about the top of my head, you might see a cone shape or a lighter energy around the shoulders and the head. So the first layer sits about here. It's called the etheric layer. I like to call it the ready breck glow, and you'll tend to see it around there. Can you see that? So focus just on the top of my head. The camera going in and out because I'm using this tone and this screenshot color just to help you see it better. So the etheric layer sits there. Now what I'm going to try and do is push my auric field out. So just continue to look at the top of my head, or my shoulders, or the side of my head. Just going to push my auric field out. There we go. So many of you start to really see it expanding. So the etheric layer right here. Now, I do this with my clients all the time. I call it the auric hair wash. So look at between my head and the tips of my fingers. Really concentrate on that, and then I'm going to pull it up, and you should see strands of light. I'll do it again. That's it, just let that get in focus. There we go. Pulling out, you should see strands of light. You'll see energy around my hand as well. What I might do is, if I can do it this way, so look in between my fingers. So if you can see in between my fingers, As I pull my fingers away, there we go, you'll see strands of light. It looks blue. Can you see that? I'll do it one more time. So just focusing in between my fingers. This is really hard because I don't mean left from right and it's in mirror, so I'm quite impressed that I'm not kind of got my hands in the wrong place. So just focusing in between my fingers again. There we go. Well, that's really visible. So you can see those strands of light. And actually it still leaves an imprint. Did you see that? I'll do it one more time for those that didn't. Just try and relax. Don't overanalyze. Just relax in the eyes. There we go. Look in between my fingers. Wow, there you go. You can see strands of light. That's nothing to do with the camera, by the way. That is the auric field. So that is the first point of call to the etheric layer. That's the one layer that most people are going to see. Now, when we go into the emotional layer, which it's hard for me to tell you how far each layer is because it's different for everyone. And because the auric field is infinite, obviously it's expanding. But for once of teaching, let's just say the emotional layer here. And the emotional layer is where the emotions sit. So if someone's a very emotional person, their emotional layer will be really quite large and they're quick to emotion. People that are perhaps a bit more covetous with their emotions, the emotional layer will be slightly held in. Now there's different sizes of aura. I know it's infinite, but for want of teaching, some people can have a really, really expanded aura and other people's are a bit more tightly held in. So those with a more tightly held in auric field, just a bit more private and like to keep things to themselves. It's fine. Now the mental layer, I'm going to show you the mental layer, so I've got an itch, right above here. So the mental layer, just so it's out around here, you can see the auric as I move my hands as well, you can see that stranding down. So the mental layer is where all of our thought forms sit. So with the mental layer, if someone's a thinker or has a very persistent thought, you'll often see it and it looks like a cartoon thought bubble. So in those cartoons where you've got the 3 dots and then the big speech bubble with a thought in it, can actually look like that. So if I get a client that comes to me and I see that, you can remove it. It's just about removing of energy, this bioplasmic resonance that exists in all of us. So the astral layer, it's a bit further out, so I'm moving out the screen, but there we go. The astral layer is the bridge between the mind and the soul. So when we astrally project or astral dream, quite often the soul and the energy moves beyond into the astral layer. A lot of people say to me that they can't connect to their loved ones that have passed in any other way than through dream. And that is because the astral layer, when the mind is not engaged, our subconscious or our intuition, however you want to put it, really comes into play. It's the mind that stops a lot of our communication. So another bit of advice for me in aura or anything, don't overanalyze. You know, I'm not asking you to be so open-minded that your brains are falling out, but I am suggesting that just take the mind out a little bit. We can only see 0.1% of our known universe, so there's 99.999 whatever that we can't see. So I like to err on the fact that we don't know anything. I don't know anything. I'm just giving you a perception of what my view of the auric field is. You might have a different one, and that's fine. That's what this is all about. It's about your view of it. I'm just teaching you my knowledge of what I've learned over the 20 plus years that I've been doing this. So when we move into the 5th auric layer, which obviously it's beyond the screen, it's called the template layer or the X-ray template layer. I'm a firm believer that the X-ray template layer is where all disease sits. So if we don't deal with disease in the and this can be emotional disease as well, it tends to filter in. So the X-ray template layer, as I was trying to explain before the camera went off, we've got a few gremlins in the system, so I like to think spirit's on its rounds, if you will. So I was saying the X-ray template layer, disease. If it's not dealt with, gets straight into the etheric layer, and then that becomes what I call corporeal disease, or disease within the physical body. Now, the celestial layer, which is way out there, it's our sixth layer, is where spiritual bliss sits. These moments of celestial awareness, awakening, nirvana. It's called the Elysium point for those that want to, and I am going to do a podcast, or a broadcast, sorry, that's going to go into the more developed chakra points. So I'll do that in the next couple of months. I just kind of want to give you a basic understanding of these layers. So this celestial layer, if you can see the auric field and see beyond the structures and into colour, there'll be a lot of gold, shimmering light, silver and platinum. And it's a celestial point of, I think, where we start to really come into our own, into our, what I would call, developed sense of our ascension. And the last layer is called the causal. And the causal layer is the transect point between divinity and ourselves. And we are all divine. And I'm a firm believer, as obviously it's called Consciousness TV, that we are all consciousness, we are all one. So these layers are almost a separation from the fact that we are all interconnected. But separation, ego, it all plays a part in the destruction of our understanding. Our ancestors fully were aware that there was no separation. But over the last 2,000, 3,000, 4,000 years, we've had a lot more developed sense of, I suppose, ego mind. So just to bear that in mind as we go along, kind of in this teaching course, if you will, we'll talk more about sense of self, identity, and definitely the upper chakra points. So I hope this has helped somewhat. The camera cut off halfway in between, and I'm really realising that I squint a lot. So I apologise, I've got bad eyesight. I do have glasses, but I refuse to wear them. That's ego. Refuse to wear my glasses. So if you just bear with me, obviously the quality of this video was to be able to show you the auric field. I'll do it one more time as well. Just again watching between my head and my hands, because it shows up really, really well. I was actually quite pleased with how it shows up. And I'm going to try and push my auric field out. There we go. And as I pull my fingers down, you can see that it will leave an imprint. Let me try and, that's it. There we go. And again, looking between my fingers. There, you can see almost the whole hand imprint. Actually, if I, just bear with me, there's going to be a bit of jogging of the camera. There we go. What I'm going to do is, if you look at the screen, and again look at my fingers and in between my fingers, and I pull, there we go, you'll start to see all of that. So thank you for tolerating me on my first podcast. They'll get a lot more, broadcast, they'll get a lot slicker, but obviously I just needed this colour to show the auric field. I'm going to go a lot more in depth into the auric field to help you understand the reading of the auric field and the bioplasmic. There's past life information, all sorts of things. So thanks for listening.